Gordon Hurst couldn't believe his ears. Moments ago, he'd been envying Nick Scott. Now he felt sorry for her, as he listened to her boss, Donald Alcott, calmly stab her in the back. He thought about how happy she'd been. In fact, it had seemed to have been the first time he had seen her truly happy since he'd met her. If he refused, they would probably ask someone else. However, he felt obliged to offer token resistance. "I've just spoken with Miss Scott. My understanding is that she's to be your expert on this expedition." Alcott smiled indulgently. "Let's just say she's very young and new to the museum." "Have you told her about this, that you're inviting me to come along as your expert?" He, of course, knew that Alcott had done no such thing, but he hoped to at least make the man squirm a little. The curator folded his hands on his desk. "It will probably be best if we call you our advisor. How does that suit you?" Alcott drummed his elegantly manicured fingers on what looked to be a pristine blotter. Hurst, his mind racing, rose from the chair in front of Alcott's desk and pretended to be examining one of the curator's framed college degrees. Certainly, Hurst wanted to go. His last book hadn't done as well as he'd hoped, although it had been well received by the critics. He felt stalled on the sequel, and he was bored with museum research. This was a chance to make a bit of history instead of recording it after the fact. He enjoyed Nick's company. She was easy to talk to, and he'd had the feeling that their friendship could deepen into something more. The trouble was, academic jealousies had been known to turn into lifelong vendettas, and Nick Scott didn't look like the type who'd roll over without a fight. She was too much like him, possessive and obsessive. "I don't like poaching on someone else's turf," he said, knowing full well that Alcott wouldn't take the protest seriously. "There's no question of that," Alcott said. "After all, she's new and untested. I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't protect the museum's interests." Though Hurst had been expecting just such a response, he couldn't help sighing with relief. The lure of laying hands on a Japanese dive bomber was like a siren song inside him, growing louder by the moment. Before it deafened him completely, he paid token homage to his scruples. "I've read her work. She's made some important finds." In deference to Alcott, he added, "Hiring her was a wise choice." "That wasn't my decision," Alcott said. "And this is?" Alcott swiveled his desk chair until he was facing his Ivy League laurels. "Did Ms. Scott tell you about our financing?" "We didn't get around to that." "There you have it, then." Alcott faced Hurst again, a knowing look on his face. "She left out the crucial point of the expedition." Hurst would have thought the Aichi itself took precedence over everything else, but kept the notion to himself. "The Ellsworth Group is defraying all expenses," Alcott went on. "As you know, much of our work here at the museum depends on grants, corporate and otherwise, which is exactly why I want you to be with us on this expedition. We can't afford any kind of mistake that might alienate one of our most important sponsors. Accordingly, I've arranged a handsome honorarium for you, Dr. Hurst. Gordon, if I may? What would you say to $50,000? Hurst's jaw dropped open. Jesus, that was one hell of an honorarium. And for what? 2 weeks' work at the most? Maybe less.